Hi, welcome to episode 17, The Circle of Fifths. Circle of Fifths is one of these music theory things that even if you're not into music theory and you're just a musician, you just have to know. It's like a thing you have to memorize. It doesn't mean it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I want to talk through it a little today, but I just want to be upfront. This is a boring little area of music theory, but it's like an area you have to kind of leapfrog ahead from fundamentals and learn this before you can like go back and learn more about actual notes and chords and stuff. The reason being, there's 15 major keys and 15 minor keys, and there's all kinds of music that you hear all the time in every single one of those major and minor keys. And music that's in a different key doesn't do anything different. Like you could play the same music in C or play it in F sharp, and it would do all the same stuff and all the same concepts would apply. But in order to like look at that music and understand that music and read that music, you have to be able to understand music that's in F sharp just as well as you understand music that's in C. Like I said, there's nothing different. There's nothing super hard about it. It's all just a task of memorization. And this all arises because of how some steps are more equal than others, like I talked about a few episodes ago. And when you spell a C scale, one of every letter of the alphabet, and then you have to make sure you have the correct sequence of whole and half steps, right? Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So it shows you that E and F and B and C are closer together than all the other notes in this scale. And if we also take into account the keyboard, 4, 5, 6, 7, we see that the confusion and the difficulty in like the turnoff, honestly, to a lot of beginner students comes from the fact that while we have 7 pitch classes in any scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, that's 7. In any given scale, we have 7 pitch classes, but on the keyboard, there's 12 keys per octave. So there's 12 pitch classes represented on a keyboard. At least it's kind of weird, because this one could be C sharp or D flat, so it could be more than 12 in a certain way of thinking. This one could be E flat or D sharp. This one could be F sharp or G flat, G sharp or A flat, B flat or A sharp. And like I may have mentioned before, even like this E could be an F flat, and this F could be an E sharp. This C could be a B sharp. This B could be a C flat. The keyboard has all these notes that perform different duties, but basically the thing that makes learning music kind of hard is that we have 7 note scales, but we have to pick them out of our 12 available notes per octave on the keyboard. Let's get kind of abstract. What is a key? Well, a key at its heart is a collection of pitch classes. Remember, pitch class is that circular aspect of pitch, like C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then you come around to the next C, as opposed to pitch height, which is that up or down aspect of pitch. And you can describe the relationship between those in this like kind of corkscrew manner, right? As you go up in pitch, you also go around in pitch class. And so points at the same part of the circle, even though they're higher, sound the same. So middle C sounds sort of the same and sort of different as the next C up. So a key is a collection of pitch classes. In this case, it's the pitch classes C through B. It's kind of just a thing we usually do when we write scales. We usually write them all the way out for an octave, just to show that. It's not just a collection of pitch classes, though. It has another important aspect where it has one central pitch class. And that's what we call the tonic. The tonic is the note that gives a key its name. So if I say C major, then the central pitch class in the key of C major is C. And then C is where you start your sequence of intervals, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, to make the scale. And so in the last episode, we kind of derived the first few scales, adding sharps or adding flats from C. And today we'll finish it with the whole circle of fifths, and I'll talk about some like mnemonic ways to remember your keys. But basically, let's make a circle. This is a really good exercise. If you're trying to learn this stuff, it's probably a good idea to be able to just generate this on a blank sheet of paper. If you can do that, then you're probably pretty secure. So going around in fifths, we get to C sharp. That's as far as we go in the sharp side. And then on the flat side, it looks like this. And then the one we call C sharp, we could call D flat. And then we call F sharp, we could call G flat. And this one we could call C flat. And there we have 15 major keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 12 places around the clock, just like a clock. It's definitely not out of place to think of the circle of fifths like a clock. Now, there's kind of a neat way where the number of sharps or flats, as we kind of started noticing last time, systematically is laid out on the circle of fifths. G sharp the key of G has 1 sharp. The key of D has 2 sharps. The key of A has 3 sharps. The key of E has 4 sharps. The key of B has 5 sharps. The key of F sharp has 6 sharps. And the key of C sharp has 7 sharps. We stop after C sharp because if you think about it, if we go back up to our C scale and we turn it into a C sharp scale, it just literally means every single note has to be raised. There's our C sharp scale. And if we wanted to go one more step around the circle, we would actually end up having to use a double sharp. The next step around the scale would be G sharp. And a G sharp scale, get this, a G sharp scale would end on G sharp here, and then it would have this note right before it. But we couldn't call it G, because remember, a scale needs one of every member of the alphabet. So we would actually have to call this F double sharp. Yeah, there's double sharps. They look kind of like X's with little feet. Or some people just use the X. I don't know, I like the little feet. We'll get into that. Let's get back to our circle. Got a little out of the way there. Let's use purple for the flats. I don't know why. The key of F has 1 flat. The key of B flat has 2 flats. The key of E flat has 3 flats. The key of A flat has 4 flats. The key of D flat has 5 flats. The key of G flat has 6 flats. And the key of C flat has 7 flats. So just like you could take a C scale and turn it into a C sharp scale just by making everything sharp, you can turn it into a C flat scale by making literally every single note flat. And again, that's where we stop on our journey around the circle, because again, we would have to use a double flat if we wanted to write an E, or if we wanted to write the next one in the sequence, which would be an F flat scale. Lord, I don't want to think about an F flat scale. Okay. This is why the circle of fifths is so handy. You can imagine if you're going to change keys ever, a key that only has one different note is going to sound a lot closer. And so the circle of fifths really shows you how close keys are to each other. And notice how weird it is. If you hear a song that like changes up a step, it's a really common thing in pop music especially, for like a song in C to suddenly, like before the last chorus or something, modulate up a half step, it's actually moving really remotely. Whereas if you hear a song modulate just to its fifth, or to what we call its dominant, move up 5, C, D, E, F, G, that's actually the closest key you can get to. Well, tied with F. And with some minor keys, but we'll get to those minor keys. Now, I talked about the number of sharps, and I talked about the number of flats. There's also an order to them, and this is one of the first things most music students memorize. And I still, to this day, most key signatures, most of the time, I just see it and I know what it is. But I admit, on a day where my brain is going kind of slow, or where I just am lazy about thinking, or neurons aren't connecting, or whatever, I still run through these mnemonics. I will cite my grade school music teacher, Mr. Case, in Bath Elementary School outside of Akron, Ohio, for teaching me these. For sharps, okay, I'm just gonna say this, and then we'll work through what it means. For sharps, fat crabs go down and eat bears. Fat crabs go down and eat bears. This is the mnemonic thing that I learned to memorize the order of the sharps. So the first letter of each of these words is the new sharp as you go around the sharp side of the circle of fifths. Remember, people just kind of call this the sharp side, or moving towards the sharp side, and they talk about moving the counterclockwise as moving towards the flat side. And I think I mentioned last time, like, before the modern concept of keys, this was how they thought of keys solely, just like the soft side and the hard side. So the key of G has just an F sharp. The key of D has an F sharp and a C sharp, right? The key of B has an F, C, G, D, and A. And finally, the key of C sharp, everything is sharp. And then Mr. Case also taught us a mnemonic for the flat side of the circle of fifths. So the first flat is B. Bears eat and devour. I don't know, it seems kind of redundant. Eat and devour good children. Sorry, this one maybe is a little gruesome. Forever. I don't know. Maybe I remember this wrong. It seems kind of dark to teach some grade school kids, but hey, it still works for me. The key of F has just a B flat. The key of B flat has a B flat and an E flat. The key of E flat has a B flat, E flat, and A flat, right? All the way around to, say, the key of D flat has a B, E, A, D, and G, all flat. And finally, the key of C flat has everything flat. And so, fat crabs go down and eat bears. That's the order of sharps. It's kind of like what we would call this, the order of sharps. And then, mnemonic device for the order of flats is this. Bears eat and devour good children forever. Obviously, there's nothing super amazing about these particular... Well, actually, I kind of think there is. Thank you, Mr. Case. I love these. But you could make up your own. Point being, the circle of fifths is just a memorize it thing. Later on, this is the same thing you'll have to know to learn your key signatures, which is just on staff paper how we indicate which one of these keys we're going to be in. And without a mnemonic device like this, I think it can be really hard. So if you don't use these ones, I encourage you can make up your own. That's a thing I have kid students do a lot when I'm teaching keys, is I have them make up their own mnemonic devices, because then it'll stick in their head the same way for 36 years or something. These have stuck in mine. All right, circle of fifths. Learn it, know it, use it, live it. Goodbye.